It was a quiet night in the small town of Bourbon. The sky was clear, the stars were bright, and the streets were empty. Camille, a 30-year-old man who lived alone, had just finished dinner. He liked quiet evenings, fixing things in his garage and staying away from people. Life was simple, and he liked it that way. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound shook the house. The roof groaned, and something heavy hit it with a thud. Camille jumped from his chair. His heart raced. It wasn't thunder, and it wasn't a tree falling. He grabbed a flashlight and ran outside. As he looked up, he saw smoke rising from the corner of his roof. Something, or someone, had landed there. Camille climbed up using the ladder he kept by the side of his house. As he reached the roof, his eyes widened. In the middle of the damage was a small silver pod. It looked like a capsule from a science fiction movie. The metal glowed softly in the moonlight. He had never seen anything like it before. Then the pod door slowly opened. Steam hissed out, and inside was a woman. Not an ordinary woman. Her skin shimmered like moonlight. Her hair was silver and long, and her eyes glowed with a soft blue light. She was unconscious, breathing slowly. She looked peaceful, but clearly not from Earth. Camille didn't know what to do. He had never believed in aliens or space travel. But here one was, lying right in front of him. Carefully, he picked her up. She was light, almost weightless. He carried her down into his house and laid her gently on the couch. As he looked at her face, he noticed something strange. Though she looked different, something about her felt familiar. He sat beside her, watching her chest rise and fall slowly. Then her eyes opened. The first thing she said made Camille freeze. "Tyron, you came back to me." Camille blinked. "What? Who's Tyron?" The woman sat up slowly, still weak. Her eyes searched his face, full of emotion. "It's you, my husband. You died in battle, but I knew your soul would return. I followed your signal across galaxies." Camille stepped back. "I'm sorry, but I think you're making a mistake. I'm Camille. I'm not your husband." She looked confused, hurt even. "But your face, your eyes, they're the same. Your soul called me." Camille was speechless. Was this some kind of misunderstanding? Or maybe a trick? But then he saw tears in her eyes, real emotion. She truly believed what she was saying. He asked her name. She said it was Lunara. She came from a planet far away, a place called Virathel. She explained that her husband, Tyron, was a brave warrior who died many years ago. Before his death, he promised to return to her. She said she had been following a signal, one only her husband could send, and it led her here, to Earth, to Camille. Camille tried to stay calm. "Look, I don't know who you are or what's going on, but I've lived here all my life. I've never left this planet." Lunara shook her head. "That may be true now, but the soul can travel. It can be reborn. My people believe that love connects souls across time and space." He didn't know what to say. All of this was too strange. But at the same time, her voice was gentle, her presence calming. Even if he didn't believe her story, he didn't feel afraid. He let her rest in the guest room and tried to sleep himself. But as he lay in bed, his mind was full of questions. Why did she choose his house? Why did she think he was her husband? And why did he feel something familiar when she looked at him? The next morning, Camille made tea and offered some to Lunara. She smiled and accepted it. She didn't seem dangerous. In fact, she looked sad and lost. She asked him if she could stay for a few days while she repaired her ship. Camille agreed, though he still didn't know what to believe. Over the next 2 days, Lunara explored his home, asked questions about Earth, and helped him in small ways. She moved with grace and seemed to learn quickly, but she never stopped calling him Tyron. Every time she did, Camille gently corrected her, but she only smiled as if she knew something he didn't. That night, Camille had a strange dream. He was standing under two moons, holding hands with a silver-skinned woman. They were surrounded by stars. Her voice echoed in his mind. "No matter how far, I will find you again." He woke up sweating, confused. He had never seen that place before, yet it felt so real. And the woman in the dream, it was Lunara. Camille didn't know what was happening to him. Was he imagining things? Or was there a part of him he didn't know about? A past life? A forgotten truth? Lunara noticed his confusion the next morning. She gently placed a hand on his. "I know it's hard to understand, but I feel it in my heart. You are my Tyron." Camille looked into her eyes. He didn't believe in fate. He didn't believe in magic or aliens until now. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe it was just a strange accident. But deep inside, a part of him didn't want her to leave. He nodded slowly. "You can stay as long as you need." And so, the strange journey began. An alien widow on Earth, and a lonely man who might be more than he thought. Neither of them knew what the future held, but one thing was certain. Their lives had already changed forever. The next few days passed slowly, but they were far from normal for Camille. He still couldn't believe that a woman from another planet was living in his house, sleeping under his roof and calling him her late husband. Lunara acted calm and gentle, but her eyes were always watching him closely, full of hope and something deeper, something like love. Camille didn't know how to deal with it. She continued calling him Tyron. Every time she said the name, it sent a strange chill through his body. Not fear, but something he couldn't explain. He corrected her again and again, reminding her that his name was Camille, but she always responded with a smile and soft words. "Names change," she would say, "but souls don't." He started asking her questions. "If I'm not your husband, why do you think I am?" Lunara looked at him with those glowing blue eyes and gently said, "Before Tyron died, he made a soul bond with me. Our bond could reach across space and time. He promised me that when his soul returned, I would feel it. And I do. Every time I look at you." Camille didn't want to hurt her feelings, but it was hard to accept such a story. He tried to tell himself it was all in her imagination, but things started happening, small things that made him question everything. One morning, while fixing an old motorcycle in his garage, Camille cut his hand. The wound wasn't deep, but it bled. Lunara rushed to him, took his hand gently, and placed her other hand above it. A soft glow appeared between her fingers and the cut. Within seconds, the bleeding stopped and the skin started closing. He pulled his hand back, staring at it. What was that?" "Your body remembers healing like his did," she said softly. "Tyron had the same energy. Yours is just waking up." That night, Camille had another strange dream. He was standing in a battle wearing strange armor. He saw Lunara crying in the distance, calling out his name. In the dream, he ran toward her, but before he could reach her, everything went dark. He woke up sweating again, his heart was pounding, and then he saw it. On his wrist, the scar he'd had since childhood was glowing faintly, just like in the dream. He ran to Lunara and showed it to her. Her eyes filled with tears. "That's the soul seal. You had it when I met you the first time." Camille shook his head. "No. This scar was from an accident when I was a kid. I fell from a tree. My uncle told me it never healed properly." Lunara placed her hand on it. "You don't remember, but your soul does." Camille didn't know what to say. Was it possible? Could there really be something inside him from another life? He had never believed in such things before, but now he wasn't so sure. During the next few days, Lunara helped around the house. She cooked using earth food, though she often added strange spices she carried with her. She repaired things using tools from her damaged pod, tools that worked, without wires or electricity. She learned quickly, and she seemed to enjoy learning about Earth's way of life. She even began reading his old books, flipping through pages with wide eyes and curiosity. The more time Camille spent with her, the more he noticed how kind and caring she was. She wasn't pretending. Her feelings were real, and strangely, he started feeling comfort in her presence. He started looking forward to their evening talks and quiet dinners. She would tell him stories of her world, of silver lakes that sang at night, of cities made from light, of peaceful creatures that flew through the skies like birds. One evening, while sitting in the backyard, Camille asked her, "If I'm not really your husband, what will you do?" Lunara looked up at the stars and replied softly, "Then I will still thank the stars for leading me to you. You may not be Tyrone, but you carry something of him, even if it's just a memory." Camille didn't reply. Her words touched something deep in him. He looked up at the same sky and wondered if his life really was what he always thought it was. What if he wasn't just an ordinary man from a small town? What if he had once been someone else? Someone who had loved and lost? Like Lunara? Later that night, he took out an old box of childhood photos. He showed Lunara pictures of him as a baby, as a boy, and as a teenager. She smiled politely, but then paused at one picture, one where Camille was about 8 years old, standing in a field with his hand raised toward the sky. "This one," she whispered. "That's the same field where we said goodbye, before Tyrone left for the last war." Camille looked at the photo. It was taken by his uncle during a family picnic. He never remembered anything special about it, until now. "That field is near the hills. I used to go there alone sometimes," he said. Lunara nodded. "Because your soul remembers." That night, sleep didn't come easily. Camille stood by the window and watched the stars. His heart was full of questions, but something inside him had changed. He didn't fully understand it, but he couldn't deny that something strange was happening. Lunara wasn't just some lost visitor. She had brought with her a piece of a story he didn't know he was part of. Maybe he wasn't Tyrone. Or maybe, just maybe, a piece of Tyrone lived inside him. And, for the first time in years, Camille didn't feel alone. Days passed, and Camille's quiet life was slowly changing in ways he never expected. Before Lunara came, he spent most of his time alone, fixing old machines and avoiding crowds. Now his house felt different, almost warmer. Lunara's presence had brought something strange but comforting. She didn't just live in his home now, she had become part of his routine, part of his days, part of his thoughts. Camille still wasn't sure if he truly believed everything she said about being his wife from another world. But he couldn't ignore the strange dreams, the glowing scar on his wrist, or the deep feeling that something inside him was connected to her. Lunara had begun helping him in his garage, where he repaired motorbikes and small machines for the people in town. She watched closely at first, then slowly started helping with simple tasks. To his surprise, she learned fast. In just a few days, she was fixing engines as if she had done it all her life. Camille didn't teach her everything, but she understood the tools and parts in a way that didn't seem human. "You learn quickly," he told her one afternoon while wiping oil off his hands. Lunara gave him a gentle smile. Tyrone was a builder too, not of machines like these, but of sky crafts. "I remember watching him work. Maybe your hands remember as well." Camille said nothing. He didn't know what to believe anymore. But when she looked at him like that, so sure, so full of love, it made him want to believe, even if it didn't make sense. One evening, while working late in the garage, a spark from a faulty wire jumped out and landed on a gas can. Flames burst up quickly. Camille tried to grab the fire extinguisher, but it had fallen behind the workbench. Before he could panic, Lunara stepped forward, her eyes glowing. She raised her hand, and a wave of cool blue light flowed from her palm. The fire shrank instantly and vanished like it had never been there. Camille stared at her in shock. "How did you do that?" Lunara looked down at her hand, then back at him. "You were in danger. I couldn't let anything happen to you. My body remembers how to protect you." "You mean how to protect Tyron?" She looked into his eyes and whispered, "Or maybe both." That night, the dream came again, but this time it was clearer. Camille was standing on a strange planet with 2 moons in the sky. Lunara was beside him, holding his hand. Around them were tall buildings made of glowing crystals. He heard his own voice speak a name he had never said before. Viratel. He didn't understand how, but the name felt like home. He woke up breathing heavily, his chest tight with emotion. Something inside him was changing. The dreams felt real. They weren't just imagination, they were memories, or something very close. The next day, he told Lunara about the dream. She closed her eyes and nodded. "That was our home. You're remembering, even if just a little." Still, doubts filled Camille's mind. "But how can I be him? I've lived here my whole life. I was born in this town." Lunara spoke softly. "Your body is Camille, but your soul might be older than you know." As if things weren't strange enough, new problems began to appear. Some neighbors had seen Lunara and started asking questions. "Who is she?" they asked. "Where's she from? Why does she dress like that?" One neighbor, an older man named Javed, came to Camille's shop pretending to need a repair. But his real purpose was clear. "That woman staying with you," he said while sipping tea. "She's not from around here, is she?" Camille forced a smile. "No, she's just visiting. From very far away." Javed raised an eyebrow. "She doesn't talk like she's from anywhere near here." "Be careful, Camille. People talk." After Javed left, Lunara looked worried. "I don't want to bring trouble to your life." Camille shook his head. "Let them talk. I've lived here long enough to know people always find something to whisper about." Still, he started being more careful. Lunara stayed inside during the day and only came out in the evening when it was quiet. Camille helped her work on the small silver pod she had crashed in. It was hidden behind his garage under a tarp. Lunara opened parts of it each night and carefully worked on the damage. She explained to Camille that it would take time to repair. One evening, while working on the pod, Lunara said something that made Camille freeze. "If the ship works again, I'll have to decide whether to leave or stay." Camille looked at her in silence. The idea of her leaving made him feel something deep in his chest, something like fear or loss. "I thought you came to find me," he said quietly. "I did," Lunara replied, "and I found someone. Maybe not the man I once knew, but someone I care about just as much." Camille didn't answer. His heart felt heavy. He didn't know what would happen when the ship was fixed. Would she really leave? And if she did, what would he do? Later that night, he sat alone in the backyard. The stars looked brighter than usual. Somewhere out there, her world existed. A place where her husband had once lived. A place where maybe he had lived too, in another form. Another life. He touched the glowing scar on his wrist. The light was fading now, but it was still there. A quiet reminder of something more. Maybe Lunara was right. Maybe love really did reach across time and space. Maybe some bonds were never truly broken. As the cool wind brushed his face, Camille closed his eyes and whispered into the night, "I don't know who I was before, but I know who I am now. And I know I don't want to lose you." The stars kept shining above, silent witnesses to a strange love story that had only just begun. It was a quiet evening when the sky above Kamal's house changed. He had just stepped outside to get fresh air when a strange light flashed in the sky. It wasn't like a shooting star or a plane. It moved too smoothly, almost like it was watching the ground. Then it stopped, right above his house. The light hovered there for a few seconds before vanishing behind a cloud. Camille's heart skipped a beat. He ran inside to find Lunara sitting near the window. Her face had turned pale. "You saw it too?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "That was one of our ships. They've come for me." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The room was silent except for the sound of the wind outside. Lunara stood up and placed her hand on the window. Her fingers glowed faintly and the glass shimmered like water. "They've found the energy trail from my crash," she whispered. "I tried to hide it, but I was weak when I landed." Camille didn't fully understand what was happening, but he could feel something big was coming. "What will they do when they find you?" he asked. "They'll take me home. They might even try to erase your memory, to protect the truth about our kind." Camille took a deep breath. "I don't want you to go. I'm not ready for this to end." Lunara looked at him with sadness in her eyes. "I don't want to leave either. But if they find out that I've made contact with a human, they won't understand. And if they find out what I believe about you, they'll think I've lost my mind." Later that night, while they were sitting by the fire, the ship returned. This time, it landed. A quiet hum filled the air as a larger silver craft descended from the sky, gently landing in the open field near Camille's house. The grass didn't burn. Instead, it flattened softly under the ship's glow. A ramp opened, and 3 tall figures stepped out. Their skin was like Lunara's, shiny and smooth, but their eyes were colder and their clothes darker. Lunara stood tall as they approached. Camille stayed beside her, unsure of what to expect. The tallest of the 3 spoke in a language Camille couldn't understand. Lunara replied, but her voice was sharp, almost angry. Then one of the aliens turned toward Camille and raised a hand. A beam of light flashed across his face. He felt something tug at his thoughts, like someone was searching through his memories. Camille winced and stepped back. Lunara quickly moved between them. "Stop!" she shouted. "He's not your enemy!" The aliens paused. One of them took out a small round device, pressed a few buttons, and stared at the glowing symbols. Then he looked at Camille's wrist, the scar. It was glowing again. The 3 aliens spoke to each other in hushed voices. Then the elder stepped forward and stared into Camille's eyes. "Your body is human," the elder said slowly in broken earth language. "But the mark is ancient." Camille didn't understand what it meant, but Lunara looked hopeful. "They recognize the soul seal," she whispered. "It's rare, but they've seen it before." The elder pulled out a stone from his robe. It floated in the air and began to spin. A beam of light shot out and wrapped around Camille and Lunara. Camille suddenly saw flashes, images rushing through his mind like a dream. He saw himself in armor, standing on a battlefield. He saw Lunara crying. He heard the name Tyron echoing over and over again. Then he saw a bright light, followed by darkness. When the light faded, he was standing alone on Earth. The vision ended and the beam vanished. Camille stumbled, dizzy. Lunara caught him. One of the aliens spoke again, slowly, carefully. "He carries the echo, the memory of Tyron." "But he is not Tyron," said the second. "No, replied the elder. But the soul remembers, and the bond is real. Lunara looked at Camille, eyes wide. They believe you. They see it too. Camille nodded slowly, still trying to understand. Everything. I don't know how or why, but I feel like I've lived this before. The elder turned to Lunara. You may stay if he chooses you, but the decision must be his. Camille blinked. What decision? You may go with her, the elder said. Leave Earth. Begin a life on our world, or she may stay with you, hidden. But if she stays, she must give up her people forever. Camille looked at Lunara. Her eyes were filled with hope, but also fear. She didn't want to force him. She didn't want to lose him again. You would leave your world for me? He asked quietly. I already did once, she whispered. I would do it again. Camille looked at the stars. All his life, he thought he was just a man with a simple job, a quiet house, and no purpose bigger than fixing engines. Now he was being asked to choose between the world he knew and a future he never imagined. He thought about the connection he felt with Lunara, the dreams, the glowing scar, the fire she saved him from, the way she made him feel seen for the first time in years. But Earth was his home. His memories, his family, his past, everything was here. He turned to Lunara and gently held her hands. I want you to stay. I don't know what I was before, but I know what I want now. I want this. You. Here. Tears filled Lunara's eyes. Then I will stay, even if it means giving up everything else. The aliens bowed their heads. The elder touched Lunara's forehead, then Camille's. Then it is done. She is yours now. You are hers. But beware. The stars do not forget. With that, they returned to their ship. It rose into the sky without sound, disappearing into the stars. Camille and Lunara stood in the field, holding hands, watching the sky. Something had ended, but something beautiful had also begun. The days after the aliens left felt different for Camille and Lunara. The night sky seemed fuller, and the stars seemed to shine, just for them. Camille often found himself looking up, wondering about the vast universe beyond his small town. Lunara stayed close to him, her presence a gentle comfort in a world that suddenly felt much larger and more mysterious. Though the otherworldly visitors had gone, Camille knew their words carried weight. Lunara was now his, and he was hers, bound by something deeper than simple friendship or love. But with that bond came responsibility, questions, and choices neither of them could ignore. Camille had many sleepless nights. He thought about his old life before Lunara's arrival, the quiet, simple days fixing machines and avoiding crowds. Now, everything was different. His heart had opened to someone who wasn't even from Earth, someone who carried memories he couldn't fully understand, but felt in his bones. One morning, Camille woke to find Lunara sitting quietly by the window. Her silver hair glowed softly in the early sun. She held a small glowing crystal in her hands, a gift from her people before they left. It pulsed gently with light. This is a link, she explained, a way to reach my world. When you are ready, you can touch it, and I will come to you. No matter where you are. Camille took the crystal carefully. It was cool to touch, but warm to hold. He smiled, feeling hope swell inside him. I don't know if I'll ever be ready, he said softly, but I want to keep this, just in case. Lunara smiled back. No matter where life takes us, we are connected. Days turned into weeks. Lunara learned more about Earth, its people, and its simple beauty. She laughed at small things, like how Camille made tea too strong and how the rain smelled like earth after a dry spell. Camille, in turn, grew fascinated by her stories of distant Planets, strange creatures, and cities that floated in the sky like clouds. Their bond grew stronger. They shared meals, stories, and quiet moments under the stars. Sometimes they just sat silently, holding hands and watching the night, feeling the universe around them. But life wasn't without challenges. Some townsfolk whispered about the strange woman living with Kamal. Some were curious, others were wary. Kamal stood firm, protecting Lunara and their secret. He didn't care what others thought anymore. Lunara was his family now. One day, Kamil's old friend, Samir, came to visit. Samir was skeptical when he first met Lunara, but after spending time with her, he saw the truth in her eyes. "You really care about each other, don't you?" Samir asked one evening. Kamil nodded. "More than I ever thought possible." Samir smiled. "I'm happy for you, Kamil. You deserve that happiness." It was a small moment, but it meant the world to Kamil. Acceptance from someone he trusted made him feel stronger. Months passed, and Lunara's ship was finally repaired enough for travel. The question they both feared loomed in the air. Would she leave Earth? Would Kamil go with her? One evening, standing by the field where the ship had first landed, they faced the decision together. "I don't want to lose you," Lunara said, her voice trembling. "But I also want you to live your life fully, here, or with me." Kamil took her hands and looked deep into her glowing eyes. "You don't have to choose between worlds. We'll build a bridge between them. When I'm ready, I'll come. With you. Until then, we have each other." Lunara smiled, tears of joy shining like stars. "Then I will stay with you here, and wait for the day we cross the stars together." As the sun set, they embraced. Their future was uncertain, but their love was certain. Two souls from different worlds, connected beyond time and space. From that day on, Kamil lived differently. He worked at his garage, but his dreams were no longer small. He looked to the stars with hope, ready for whatever adventure the universe might bring. Lunara stayed by his side, the alien widow who found love on Earth and chose to stay, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Their story became a quiet legend in the town, a story of love, courage, and the magic that happens when two worlds collide. And every night, beneath the endless sky, Kamil held the glowing crystal close, knowing that, no matter where life took them, their hearts would always be together.